Well, let's just right off the bat just talk about how dog shit Skyline Chili is. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck the Bengals. Fuck Joe Burrow. Fuck Skyline Chili. Suck my dick, you fucking animals. I don't fucking care. Fuck you guys. That shit sucks dick.
Welcome in to It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. I'm Austin. Find me on Twitter at Real Bear Lawyer. Here with me, as always, my co-host Taylor at Taylor_Witt on Twitter. Chiefs are 2-0. It's week 3. What's going on, buddy?
How late does it feel in the NFL season to you right now?
It flies by, man. It feels
it's
like
crazy.
It could.
I feel like we've been in the thick of it.
Over. Yeah,
yes, yeah. I can't believe that was the second week out of 17 games, 18 weeks. It's crazy. We're 1/9 through it.
Oh, it's just disgusting how long it takes for us to reach this point, and then once we do reach this point, how quickly it's all over. And that goes for fantasy as well. It feels like my fantasy leagues, I feels like, and it's partly because there's nothing, and then everything just gets dumped on you. You're just, there's injuries and bad beats and just all kinds of craziness all over the place. We have our listener leagues going, and it's been kind of a mixed bag. I'm going to be 2-0. I'm going to be at the top of the listener dynasty league after a ridiculous 0.7 point win over Osho KC Jarrett in week 1, and then pretty solid dub here in week 2. We're also likely going to have undefeated. So we're recording this during Monday Night Football. So Jordan Screen, in like Flint, look like they're both going for 2-0 as well. So some wild action in the dynasty league. In the redraft league, Volk had a monster 161-point effort in week 1. He was 60 points ahead of everybody else. And he is on pace for 84 points and a loss in week 2. And I mean, that's fantasy, man. It's just
how shit goes.
It doesn't matter how good you are in week 1 because you could be the worst team in the league in week 2. Looks like Ehace Golf is going to be on top after 2 weeks in that league. And, our Cutthroat League, low-scoring team gets limited every week. We do have a 2-week, week 1 cut, a little bit of a grace period. Our friend Nicole is back in the league. She had a horrible beat last year with Aaron Rodgers getting hurt after 4 snaps in week 1 and giving her a big fat 0. She had a horrible just situation develop with her spending half her auction budget on Christian McCaffrey this year. But she is going to survive in advance because our favorite street rat, Tojo, just can't overcome can't overcome a 34-point effort in week 1. That's too much to overcome. You just can't do it.
No, it's been rough, man. Everybody's been hurt. I mean, you name a Ram, they're on IR right now, and
I own a lot of Rams, so.
And AJ Brown's out, and Debo's out, and we're going to talk about some other injuries later in this show. It's been a bloodbath so far through 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's always really tough, but it's always a lot of fun too. I mean, it is fun. It's also infuriating, and that's just kind of the sport that we call football and the hobby that we call fantasy football. We're brought to you by Fansided. We got a great show for you guys tonight. I may have mentioned the Chiefs are 2-0, so that's pretty exciting. We're going to hit the news. We're going to hit the Bengals recap, and we're going to hit the Falcons preview. We are recording this during Monday Night Football because I'm about to leave for my customary 2-week European vacation. Now, normally I get this done in August, and I should probably have done that again this year, but I didn't. Going on a little cruise to the fjords of Norway, so it's going to be exciting, but we do have internet. It's going to be fine. I will not be recording the show with you next week, but I will be watching the game. Look forward to talking to everybody in a couple of weeks, but we're going to hit you with a great episode before I go on the road tomorrow morning, fly to Chicago, fly to Europe, cruise around there for a couple of weeks, and then I will be back refreshed, ready to talk about the Chiefs. Let's hit the news. So we're recording this Monday night. There is no injury report yet, but unfortunately there is a lot of injury news to break down. Let's start with Isaiah Pacheco. He suffered a fractured fibula at the tail end of the Chiefs' win over the Bengals on Sunday. First play coming out of the 2-minute warning at the end of the game in the second half, 2-minute warning. He's going to have surgery on that. He's going to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. It sounds like it could be longer than that. And I've heard a lot of different information being bandied about. But the latest from Rappaport and Tom Pelissero and Adam Schefter is 6 to 8 weeks. That obviously is not as bad as it could be. This was something where, after the game, Mike Florio was reporting at halftime of Sunday Night Football yesterday that the concern was the fibula. And then you had all these Twitter doctors coming out and saying, like, I mean, that could be season ending. It looks like it's not going to be quite that dire, but he is going to miss some very significant time. And that leaves the Chiefs with Samaje Perine and Carson Steele on the roster for now.
Yeah, it's it's very concerning. There's no other way to put it. It's too bad too, because that room was very thin to start out with. We talked about that several times. Remember, of course, friend of the show Dan Harm said that was maybe the worst position group on the team was the running back group, and that includes a good Isaiah Pacheco, but there just wasn't a lot behind him. And they ended up then bolstering that by signing Samaje Perine, and obviously we've all kind of fallen in love with the Gator man, Carson Steele. But I mean, there's no sugarcoating this. It's going to be rough. Mahomes is probably going to have to throw it. I mean, a hell of a lot more than 25 times that he threw this week, probably closer to 40 if the Chiefs are going to stay competitive here.
Unfortunately, we have an update about Mahomes throwing the ball as well, because the guy that we were all very hyped and excited to sign back at the beginning of free agency, Hollywood Brown, suffered that sternoclavicular injury after one play in the Chiefs' first preseason game. We thought we might be getting him back this week or next. Unfortunately, we learned this past week that injury was not healing properly. He needs surgery to correct it. He is likely to miss most, if not all, of the regular season. And this one, I mean, obviously the Pacheco injury sucks, and we're going to miss him while he's gone. He was having a great year. I mean, first couple of games, running hard, looked really good. Looked like he'd made some strides, with his vision, with his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Hollywood Brown, we got to see for one play. And, obviously the Chiefs can win without him. They're 2-0 against, two of the toughest games on their schedule. I mean, probably two of the 5 toughest games they'll play all year.
Certainly.
But, to be clear, it sounds like there's still a very good possibility that he'll be back in time for the playoffs. But it just sucks that we don't get to see him. And it just sucks that the Chiefs don't get to have that extra weapon that we really expected to put them over the top offensively this year.
Yeah, this is another case where life as a Chiefs fan ain't easy, man. I don't care.
That's right. It's
what these other people
are.
Who has it worse than us right now? Who's more stressed about week in and week out performances than Chiefs fans? There's just, it just means more, to borrow a phrase from the SEC, and losing Hollywood for the entire regular season. He was on a 1-year prove it deal. Like, this was going to be, he was going to ball out. And, now maybe they run it back and bring him on another 1-year prove it deal, see if he can maybe stay healthy for a year, which would be the first time in a while that he's been able to do that. But as far as what it means for the 2024 Chiefs, it means an immediate welcome to the NFL, grow up quick for Xavier Worthy. He has to go from, ooh, this toy would be fun if it worked out really well, to like, oh, he has to be like the wide receiver 2 immediately, forever, for the whole year. He has to be. If he's not, you've got Justin Watson, and I mean it's pretty bare after I mean, Rasheed's great, but after him now, and if Xavier Worthy has some struggles adjusting to life in the NFL, these and Travis Kelce's getting older, and I mean things are not working in the passing game right now, and losing Hollywood, even if he comes back, let's say he comes back right before the playoffs. I don't know if you can get him on the ground and ready to go. And I mean, it's going to be hard. So it's a tough blow for the offense.
Yeah. Let's talk about that briefly before we move on to the next item here. He at least was here. He was here for the entirety of training camp. So he's learned the offense.
Yeah.
That's always a concern if you're bringing a guy in midseason, like via trade, is that he hasn't learned the offense. And for a wide receiver, that's a really tough thing to pick up mid-season because you just don't have all of those reps that you got in training camp. Now, he made it through the entirety of camp. He made it through one play of a preseason game. He made it through that week of practice leading up to preseason game one. So he's got presumably the playbook down, and he's a veteran guy, and he's played in some different offenses. You'd expect him to be able to do that. The concern would be just getting the reps with him. And obviously, since this is his first season in Kansas City, you don't have the familiarity there that you would have with a guy like, say, for example, McCole Hardman, who they brought back last year, mid-season from the Jets. So that would be tough. On the flip side, I mean, just to put a positive spin on this, the potential of the offense with Holly Brown is obviously something that we've been pretty tantalized by. And now, now it is just potential. We're going to have to wait probably until December or January into, the very end of the regular season or the beginning of the playoffs to see what that would look like. But on the other hand, it means that there's nothing on tape. And so, if Xavier Worthy is able to play well as the second receiver in this offense behind Rashee Rice, and if Travis Kelce is able to turn back the clock a little bit, he's looked a little slow the first couple of weeks, but, he started off slow last year too. And then you add Hollywood Brown in the mix. I mean, that could be a lot of fun. Obviously, It sucks. It sucks to not have him because I know you and I, especially, and this is extreme first world problems. If we have anybody that's listening to the show, like hate listening to the show because of the memes that have been going around, first of all, welcome. And we're so glad you're here. Just Enjoy I can't even possibly express how exciting it is to have you here listening to the show. But I mean, you and I were excited to see records broken this year. Like that was the kind of potential that this offense had with Patrick Mahomes, with 6 seasons under his belt and finally, 2 speedy guys on the outside to be able to really unlock the passing game and put this all over the top and improvements from Rashee and, some improvement hopefully in the run game with the offensive line and, the backs that we had. And we're just not going to get to see that. And it doesn't mean that the Chiefs can't have a record breaking year, but it does mean that it will be harder for them to do it. And it just would have been fun, damn it, to go out and effortlessly put up 35 points a game like we did in 2018.
That's just not who they are. That's just not in their DNA to go out and kick someone's ass. I mean, I was on here last week saying that I was sure that these Bengals would come in with their tail between their legs and lose 41-10 because that's what it felt like to me going into the game. And we'll talk about what happened in the game, but it was certainly not a 31-point beatdown that I thought everything was lining up to be. So, this offense isn't, and this team really isn't going to do that. And we've got to just get ready for a playoff run because that's the only thing that really matters. And everything else before that's just not going to matter.
Let's talk about somebody coming into Arrowhead with their tail between their legs. Chiefs had a visitor or will have a visitor tomorrow. In light of the Isaiah Pacheco news, I never thought that I would say these words since that fateful weekend in 2018. But Kareem Hunt
December,
is going to be visiting One Arrowhead Drive tomorrow to visit with the Chiefs. Sounds like there's some momentum that could lead to a signing. Now, Kareem Hunt is 29 years old. He obviously was not signed with an NFL team through 2 weeks of the season. He almost didn't get re-signed by the Browns last year, and then they had the Nick Chubb injury and kind of brought him back into the fold and brought him back up to speed. So this is not a guy that has been highly coveted by NFL teams, and obviously a 29-year-old running back, probably pretty far past his prime. But this is a very surprising news item just for the fact that this meeting is taking place at all. Obviously, we know that the Chiefs cut Kareem Hunt in part because of a video that surfaced from TMZ, but in large part, we are told because he lied to the team. And in light of everything that's happened since then with some other players, Tyreek Hill, obviously, first and foremost amongst them, who were accused of, or really made the Chiefs look as bad or worse than that Kareem Hunt did that week, I put some stock in that this was really motivated by the fact that he wasn't honest with the team and he wasn't forthcoming, and not so much based on what he actually did. He actually was never even criminally charged in this case, which is is interesting.
Right.
Doesn't matter to the court of public opinion. But Kareem Hunt, what do you think about Kareem Hunt visiting the Chiefs in September of 2024?
I mean, so first, I think that if Kareem was ever motivated to find his old form, this is the job that would do it.
Sure.
I think that if he didn't feel motivated going to Cleveland and losing his ass every week because that franchise is god awful and thinking every day about God, I really screwed up in Kansas City. That video, I keep going back to the video of him getting pulled over and saying I should be playing in the Super Bowl right now.
Right.
Like
Right.
that shows that kid was not affected by the Chiefs letting him go. He was devastated. And on the other hand, I think 29-year-old running back, which is the shortest shelf life in the NFL, with a guy that has had, what I'll call character issues. I mean, certainly if you get cut from
Sure.
a team for
Yeah, that's
something you
fair.
did, that certainly was a character issue. Now, I was of the opinion at the time, and I hold my opinion that while what he did was stupid and while lying to the team was stupid, this is not like he brutally abused someone.
Yeah.
And I mean, he pushed
Sure.
her with his foot. I'm sorry. Like that's what happened on the video.
Right.
I've seen the video.
Right.
And if the violence was more extreme, I would feel
Sure. If it
worse
was
about
Ray
this.
Rice,
Yes,
get out of town. Never
absolutely.
come
If it
back.
was a lot of guys, if it was Joe Mixon,
Joe
I mean,
Mixon,
there's
sure.
plenty of
Right.
guys that I
Right.
would say, oh man, that I don't know if I'm into that, but like I've never really felt the sting of what Kareem Hunt did as far as like what he was as a person. I just thought he screwed up. I thought he screwed up by not handling screwing up, and the Chiefs, made him pay for it. And he had a fine run with Cleveland. He was okay. He was scoring touchdowns, and he ran for the lowest yards per carry of his career last year, but he scored 9 touchdowns. He's okay around the goal line. And again, as I said at the beginning of this, man, if you're ever going to get back to like go hitting the gym hard, like making sure that you do everything for your team, this is what a more perfect opportunity for him. He could win a ring. He literally could do what he thought he never was going to be able to do when he was pulled over and said that should be me in the Super Bowl right now, which is go back to the Chiefs and win a ring. So I don't know. I find it interesting from the Chiefs' perspective. Like they clearly have thought about this, and if they felt that what he did was so awful that he should never step foot in Arrowhead again, they wouldn't be bringing him back in no matter what. It's not like he's still some superstar or whatever, and they're thinking like, man, we gotta get this guy in even if he sucks because he's really good at football. Like, no, like clearly they're giving him a shot as much as he would be coming in to try and help the team. So I'm all for it. He's not coming in for the every down role. And so if you're coming in as a goal line back as kind of a jumbo package type of deal, maybe you can catch some stuff out of the backfield every now and then. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they have an every down back because obviously Samaje Perine hasn't really played that role. He could. He certainly has the size to be able to do it, and he was that guy in college. But he's really taken on more of a third down receiving back role the last couple of years. Kareem kind of has been doing that for the Browns. So he had over the last 2 seasons with Cleveland, 258 attempts, 3.4 yards per carry, but then 65 targets, 50 receptions. It was doing a lot of third down passing game work there, and something that obviously we know he was proficient at when he was here with the Chiefs. And then you've got Carson Steele, who I guess, but of course he had a big fumble this week. We'll talk about that. And he's a rookie, and he's not somebody that you probably want taking every rep in pass protection on first and second down. So just because he hasn't had the reps, not because he's not big enough to do it, but rookie running backs in pass protection is always something the Chiefs are a little leery about, and as they should be because they're protecting the franchise. So, I mean, you mentioned it, 13 total touchdowns over the last couple of seasons. I don't know. He's been playing on, a bad Cleveland team the last couple of years. He's 29, but he doesn't have, he only has a little over 1,000 carries in his career, right? So
Yeah.
1,256 touches, career touches. That's like 3 seasons of prime Larry Johnson in this Chiefs offense. And I know, it's a different era, but for a guy that has been in the league now for 7 seasons, 1,200, a shade over 1,200 touches is not a tremendous amount of tread on the tires. So, and he just turned 29. So I don't know. We'll see. I think this visit obviously wouldn't be happening if the Chiefs just weren't going to sign him for personal reasons, if they, weren't willing to let bygones be bygone. Uh, so I think it just comes down to whether they think he can help this team. And if they think he can, I think there's a good chance that he is going to be on this Chiefs roster and probably will get a chance to play over the next 6 to 8 weeks while Pacheco is out.
Okay, guys, we are going to take a break and talk to you about one of our favorite sponsors we've had on the show in the past. We're excited to work with them again. That is, of course, Underdog Fantasy. It's the greatest time of the year right now. Football's back. It's here until February. It's going to be a fun 6 or so months ahead of us. Of course, as Chiefs fans, it's going to be a lot more fun than that. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, touchdowns, passing yards, stuff like that. Austin and I have both worked with Underdog in the past before, had a great time. Best ball drafts are a lot of fun. There's so much less stress than your typical drafts. I don't know if you ever won any of your best ball leagues, but I know you had a lot of fun playing them, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, a couple wins in there, and I've done the season long thing before, but really what I've been into lately is kind of just more doing the pick'ems every week.
Yeah, the pick'ems are a lot of fun. We've really had a good time doing their. They've got all the stuff you would expect, like profit boosts and no sweat stuff, and they've got this vulture protection. You can protect your running back by also scoring if the backup scores, which is they're in it for the person that's playing, not just to go in there and try and make you lose. I mean, it's definitely they've got some really fun stuff in there. And so making picks on Underdog is straightforward. Signing up is super easy. You go to Underdog's really easy to use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com and sign up with promo code Kingdom. We've used other promo codes in the past, but for this show and this ad, it is Kingdom. Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Kingdom to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Of course, legalese must be 18 or older and 21 in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 in Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Sorry, buddy. Concerns with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369.
Now, is it just our promo that doesn't work in Colorado? Because I can definitely use the Underdog app in Colorado. I have used
terms apply. Void in Colorado.
What is that? I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah,
that means, but I don't want the listeners
I
don't want the listeners to think that I've been lying to them about using Underdog. Like
You
I
have been
literally have used it like in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yes, it is the
know,
promo. You can't
okay.
use our Kingdom.
That's a
promo
little.
You're not into that.
That seems a little racist. We need to address that. We need to address it. We will, for the Colorado listeners out there, and I know we have a couple. We'll address it. We'll see if we can. We'll see if we can grease those wheels a little bit. I'm sure there's some kind of legal reason for that, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do about that. Let's talk about Chiefs Bengals. Now, the Chiefs win this game 26-25, as everyone listening to this, I'm sure, already knows. We obviously were both very confident about how this matchup was going to go.
Super confident.
It ended up going the way that this particular matchup between these two particular teams always seems to go. It came down to the wire. It was hard fought. It was controversial. This is a crazy game. And I like to experience, as you know, I like to experience games in different ways, not on purpose, but just, things come up and I'm scrambling at the last minute. So this time I was driving back from a wedding and I made it home in time for kickoff. The game was not on TV and I need to get Sunday ticket or whatever, but almost always I can get Chiefs games here just, through my usual YouTube TV subscription. Even though there were 10 games at noon and there were only, I think, 3 or 4 games in the afternoon window, there was only one game on and it was the Broncos. whatever. So I'm illegally streaming this game, right? And I get to watch about the first half and then about half of the third quarter. And then I got to drive my brother to the airport so he can fly back to the East Coast. And I don't have any way to listen to this game. I couldn't get it on the radio. So I'm literally like, I'm driving and I'm
Checking
tweeting and
Twitter.
I'm
Yeah.
refreshing the game cast, which is not, I don't recommend it. I'm not endorsing driving and texting or whatever it was. I was using my device just to track the score. And I since have been able to go back and watch the entire second half of this game, and we're going to go through it. But we just have to sort of start off with like, how on earth and how and what and why and the Chiefs are 2-0.
And who and all the other questions we could possibly ask. No, it was insane. I tweeted during the game that my future self is going to look back at this tweet and either laugh at how stressed I am or warn me to shut the game off immediately. And I wasn't sure which one it would be. And I mean, that's what it's like to play the Bengals as the Chiefs in 2024. And that's what it's like to be a Chiefs fan. And I'm sorry, again, I brought this up earlier. Anybody out there, and everyone listening to this, unless you're one of those hate listeners, but for the most part, everyone understands where we're coming from, which is that because they feel the exact same way.
Right.
And everyone who watches the Chiefs has such high expectations. That's the one thing. The Chiefs' expectations are mountains higher than every other team in the league, as they should be, because they've been mountains better than every other team in the league for several years. And they have the best player on the planet and the best coach. And there's no reason why the Chiefs should ever lose a football game. There really isn't. They're better than everyone. They should go out and prove it every week. They have the best defensive coordinator of all time. There's no reason for it, which means when these games start and they're not doing what we expect them to do, it's really stressful. And so we are going to do the Chiefs system in reverse. I've only done this one time. It was for the Browns playoff win that Mahomes got knocked out and Henny had to finish the game.
Sure.
And the reason, yeah, exactly. And the reason that we're doing it on its head this time is obviously because the formula, while it applies every single time, sometimes it doesn't apply in the right order. And so we're gonna do a little I guess speak. There's no pronunciation for the Spheek system. And before we get underway, the Bengals were not good in week 1 by any stretch of the imagination. We talked about that in the pregame or in last week in the preview. And, you know, you lose a home game to the Patriots, who almost pulled themselves off to 2-0. They lost in overtime to the Seahawks this week. But the Patriots are not a good team. And the Bengals came in with no T. Higgins, angry Jamar Chase, banged up defense, Joe Burrow's wrist. Nobody knows what was going on with it. And the Chiefs, while losing Hollywood sucked, they beat the Ravens without Hollywood. And Xavier Worthy scored 2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, they went up and down the field.
They went up and down the field, and you know, they held the MVP Lamar to 20 points, which was pretty good. So all that is to say, I felt like this game was going to be an ass kicking. So let's get into it. The Chiefs system. We're going to start with separate entirely. And after the Bengals started the game off with a field goal drive, the only solace I had, Andy Reid was separated entirely from his testicles. I'm just going to say it. On the first drive by the Chiefs, the Chiefs ran 6 plays from the 6-yard line or closer in this drive and gained a total of 5 yards. And on 4th and goal from the 1, Andy had seen enough. He didn't want to run a play there. Now, I've always maintained that the worst case scenario, if you run a play from 4th and goal at the 1 and you don't score, is that the other team starts at the 1. I mean, they start in very dangerous safety territory. If you make them,
the Broncos had 2 safeties last week.
Yes, they did against the Seahawks.
Against the Seahawks, yeah.
Yes, it was, and it's a situation where, you know, that those 3 points, I get it. I mean, the Chiefs ended up. We'll talk about how it happened, and I guess those 3 points were extremely valuable to get, but I don't know. Everyone was of the opinion that 4th and 1 call here on the opening drive was the wrong call to kick a 19-yard field goal. I tweeted that 19-yard field goals should be illegal and not even like football illegal. Like Andy should have done some jail time for that. Like that was not great. How were you feeling on the Reid call on the 4th and 1 to kick.
I mean, what makes it doubly frustrating is that they went for it on 4th and short. Like
A couple plays.
a couple of plays, like when they were already in the red zone,
Yeah.
they go for it on 4th and short. And then what changes between when you went for it 3 plays ago and got it and now? Other than,
I mean, seeing 3 plays not
you
get
haven't
very far.
You haven't yet gotten it into the end zone. But the Bengals later in this game were faced with a very similar situation where they had 1st and goal from the 1, did not get it in on 3 plays, and then went for it on 4th and 3 or 4th and goal from the 3, and they get a touchdown out of it. And so, there's sort of 2 ways to look at it. One is, I just watched us fail 3 times from, goal to go and short yardage. The other way to look at that is, so I'm not gonna go for it because I just watched this fail 3 straight times. The other way to look at it is, and this
how many times can we fail?
Exactly. This is obviously the way that the Bengals were looking at it is, we have Patrick Mahomes and we have a lot of very talented offensive players, and we have Andy Reid. How many times is this not going to work? And so, and again, I mean, I think your point is well made. The other question that you have to ask is, like, is it really so bad to give them the ball at the 1 yard line? I mean, 3 points versus kicking off, and 3 points and kicking off versus giving them the ball at the 1. You feel really good about your defense. You feel great about your interior pass rush, Chris Jones. Against a guy that is not. I mean, he gets the ball out quick. Burrow's probably too savvy to take a safety there, but he's not a super mobile guy. They're probably going to hand off. I mean, they have to call that. They have to be cognizant of the fact that there's a risk of a safety there, and their play calling has to reflect that. So, yes, Andy separated entirely from his testicles on the first drive of the game, which you would think would have had
tone
an
setter
impact on the outcome of this game. Fortunately, it didn't.
Well, it might have. We might have won by more. But
sure,
yes,
right? Yeah, that's true. It could have been the 41-10 blowout that you predicted.
Right, exactly. And it starts with a play like that. It reminds me too of the week 1 decision to punt from the 40. And
yes,
it boggles my mind that Andy, who is such a genius at offensive football and at play design and scheming and putting the ball where it needs to go. I mean, he's arguably, and maybe not even arguably, the greatest offensive mind of all time, probably. And for him to have that much skill at play design and at all that stuff, but then when it comes time to like pedal to the metal, money where your mouth is, gotta have it. Sometimes he does pull some crazy shit out or do something, but most of the time he's pretty conservative. And this was another example of that. It was unfortunate. So that was S. We're going to F. We're going to finish strong. And so after forcing the Bengals to go 3 and out on the next drive after the Chiefs kicked the field goal, the first play by the Chiefs on their ensuing drive was one of Mahomes' worst throws we've seen in a while, maybe ever. Really, really bad. Didn't see the defender at all. Threw it right to Akeem Davis-Gaither as if he was throwing him a seam ball. Like, I mean, just as he was targeting him, he just threw it right to him. And so and that was the first play. So the Bengals take over 31-yard at the 31-yard line. They cash in the short field, score a touchdown, go up 10-3. But the finish strong is that the Chiefs finished the next drive extremely strong as Mahomes on 3rd and 4 scrambled for a first down, dove for the extra. I mean, really nice effort on him to get the first down. And then 1 play later, follows one of his worst throws we've seen in a while with one of the best throws we've seen in a while. It reminded me of the ball in Los Angeles that hit Jody Fortson just like between the hands, like way down the field, like one of those that we just haven't really seen a lot of lately. But it was a 44-yard laser to Rashee Rice right over the outstretched arms of Cam Taylor-Britt, and Rashee ties the game up at 10. They finished that drive strong. That was a lot more like the explosive Chiefs we had, expected and come to see this year. You texted me a smiley face as soon as that touchdown happened. We thought, here we go, game on. Good finish strong to that drive.
Yeah, it was great. And I mean, on the interception, I tweeted this during the game. The Bengals are an objectively mid team that happens to have a special ability to make Mahomes do stupid shit. Tracy Wolfson, for the second week in a row, I got quote tweeted by a mega aggregate. I mean, it was Mina Kimes last week. It was Tracy Wolfson this week, who's the sideline reporter for this game. So
You do good tweets, man.
She didn't do this until after she got back from the game. She quote tweeted me and said, "It's called Bengals DC Lou Anarumo." With respect, Tracy,
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
listening, Lou Anarumo did not fool Patrick Mahomes on this play. It's just a normal Tampa 2. Every analyst that's broken down this play is like, I don't know what Mahomes was looking there. He's seen that look 1,000 times. It's not like they did anything to disguise it. He just went crazy for one play and threw the ball directly to the linebacker. And like, that's what's so frustrating about this. Like, Lou Anarumo is a good defensive coordinator, and he does do a lot of interesting things. We'll talk about them through the course of the Chiefs system. This was not interesting. It was not deceptive. It just was Mahomes making an uncharacteristic, brain-dead mistake. And I don't know. Thanks a lot, Tracy, for the extra attention. I appreciate the clicks, I guess. I got to start paying Elon so that I can start making money off these banger tweets that I do. But yes, the next drive, I mean, the throw was incredible. I loved seeing Rashee Rice run that route. And we saw it one time last year, one time that he basically got loose for a deep ball. And it was on a broken play where he basically told Mahomes, pre-snap, like, I'm going past this guy, and Mahomes. I mean, they just kind
against
of
the Bengals
in the hub against the Bengals, and this is a play that we needed to kind of see from him because the Chiefs aren't going to have Hollywood Brown. It is important to see Rashee Rice develop other parts of his route tree. Now, we saw in week 1, I mean, just having the threat of Xavier Worthy and getting him loose a couple of times deep was enough to open Rashee Rice up in the middle of the field.
Yeah,
and,
big time.
And, if Hollywood was here, that's would be Rashee's role. He'd just be catching slants for 8 yards, automatic, every single down, every single time you need it. But it's nice knowing that Hollywood's not going to be back until the playoffs. It's nice knowing that Rashee has this extra element to his game. And I loved to see it.
That was the second ball Rashee has ever caught of 20 or more air yards.
Yep.
Both the two plays you talked about, the play last year against the Bengals and this play, were the two times that he's caught a downfield ball, which, it hasn't been. It's not like they've thrown him a bunch downfield and he's missed them.
No.
Or it's not, they just don't use him like that. But when they have, I mean, this worked out really well. And
in fact, I'm sure there have been targets of 20 plus air yards, but I can't recall
not many.
Any examples of him being targeted deep and not getting it? Maybe on like for instance, the play that wasn't the penalty.
Sure.
I mean, he was pretty far downfield on that. There may have been a few plays
17
like
air yards.
Sure,
and I mean, the play before that was called back was basically the same. And we'll talk about these. But point is, yes, he's been, kind of deep-ish, 15, 17, 18 yards downfield. But a go route, a 9-ball, is not something that the Chiefs, we remember all the times, or at least we've probably blacked them out by now, but that MVS was targeted on those deep balls and didn't catch them. If I had said that Rashee Rice has as many 20-yard air yard catches as MVS, you wouldn't be surprised. But that's because that MVS mostly didn't catch him, whereas this one, Rashee's just mostly not, targeted. So that's what happened there with finishing strong. The Chiefs finished strong. They hit a ball down the left sideline to Rashee Rice. They knocked this game up a 10. Now we get to engage physically. And here's where I want to give a shout out to the run game. Isaiah Pacheco, 19 carries and
for 90 yards.
For 90 yards. Just a really, really tough grind out. Every time he ran, I felt like he was getting an extra yard or two, which is what we've come to expect from Pacheco. But he was really good in this game. And it wasn't all blocking and like he just hit open holes. It wasn't some Shanahan magic. This was hard-earned runs. And Carson Steele chipped in 7 carries for 24 yards, ripped off a couple really nice ones there. Didn't get obviously too many carries, but when he did, he made them count. And then Mahomes, I'll put him here in engaged physically because he had another 4 carries for 29 yards. So these are tackle breaking, hard, short yards, getting the job done, getting your nose dirty. Anarumo likes to drop a bunch of guys into coverage against the Chiefs. That's one of his kind of specialty, like screw up with the Chiefs. Like the drop 8 was something that teams were, not super willing to do against the Chiefs. And then he did it. And the Chiefs were like, well, we still want to throw. Like,
Yeah,
you're going to put all those guys back there, but like, we don't want to run. And this year they took advantage of it and they did run and they burned him a couple times for not bringing enough pressure. And, so the Chiefs finally had the personnel to handle it. The pass offense was terrible in this game. I mean, really, really struggled for the majority of the afternoon. Outside of that one Rashee Rice pass, it was very hard to get things going in the passing game. But the rush offense did enough to keep things close, keep the team, with the Bengals. And I felt like, and the line deserves some credit there too. I say the rush offense, but clearly that's the running attack by the Chiefs, the interior line, even the tackles in the run game. We'll talk about some struggles the tackles had in the passing game, but for the runs, I thought they did great, and so I thought they engaged physically really well here.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's tough, right? This may be really the Bengals' entire shtick. Like, I think in some ways, I'm simplifying this a little bit, but I think schematically, a lot of what this comes down to is the Chiefs just really want to pass the ball and they really don't want to run the ball. And so the Bengals are like, we know you're not going to run because you don't want to. And why would you want to? So we're just not going to defend the run. And you just don't have the discipline to hand it off every single time. You just won't do it.
Chiefs choose not to run.
And exactly. And they literally, I mean, on that first drive, I think they maybe had one pass attempt in there. It was crazy. I mean, it was just
I'll tell you the first drive.
Yeah, a couple of short passes.
Pacheco, short left to Pacheco, a pass, and then short right to Rice, and then Mahomes scramble, and then Carson Steele, Pacheco, short left to Justin Watson, incomplete to Kelsey, Pacheco, Steele, Pacheco, Mahomes short right, field goal. I mean, that was not a Chiefs or an Andy Reid drive that we're used to seeing at all. That was 16 plays, and 6 of them were passes, and 10 of them were runs.
And short passes. I mean, like extensions of the run game for the most part. And so, I never, and we as fans don't want to see the Chiefs run the ball, but it almost feels like they could have run the ball more in this game. I think the Bengals, their secret is just that they know that we're going to pass and they're just going to defend the pass all the time and do what is best to defend the pass. And they're just not going to care because they just don't expect us to run the ball down their throats, and probably could have done that a little bit more in this game.
Yep, probably so. So that was engaged physically. We're now on I Inspire Hope. A 13-play, 70-yard, 6-minute, 39-second drive to open the second half by the Chiefs. Took a 17-16 lead. Wanya Morris, big man touchdown. That's always inspiring, of course. After earlier in the drive on 4th and 1, Leo Chanel comes in and lines up at fullback to block for Carson Steele. Now, given the earlier Pacheco news that we talked about, I'm guessing that is not the last time we will see Leo Chanel come in and block for Carson Steele leading the way. But that was a funny little, this was another wrinkle that Andy brought out, which was two fullbacks side by side in this drive, which was just not, it's not quite a pistol. It's like a weird jumbo look with just 2 guys right to the right of the quarterback. It was, or left, I think it was in this case. But either way, very inspiring to see the Chiefs put together a long 13-play drive, much like, the 16-play drive that opened the game, ended at the 1 on a field goal, which sucked. And they made sure to cash this one in with a touchdown. The big man touchdown is always fun. It's almost like Andy usually does that type of stuff in screw-around games, blowout wins over the Broncos and Raiders and stuff like that. But in this case, they had it in the bag, and Morris checked in eligible, and the Bengals didn't cover him. So big guy gets a touchdown there, but really inspiring to see the Chiefs go out and take their first lead of the game on the opening drive of the second half.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, since you mentioned Andy separating from testicles entirely on the first drive of the game, he converted another 4th down in this game. I mean, on this drive. Right. I mean, the Chiefs were converting on 4th and short. They converted both 4th and short attempts in this game.
Both teams were 2 for 2.
They were 2 for 2 in this game. So, I don't know. again, it's frustrating that they didn't go for it on the first drive, but this was great. I mean, this is proof of concept right here. Getting Leo in on offense is something that tremendously excites me because, as you know, Leo is the most, or well, he's a 9.99, right?
Yeah.
He's
He's
a
not quite
9.99. He's
the
not quite
Creed
a
Humphrey of
10.0 like Creed.
linebackers,
Yeah,
but
he's not the Creed of linebackers, but he's right up there. I mean, this guy is so strong and fast and physical. And sure, why wouldn't that play on offense? And there's precedent for it. You know, Mike Vrabel, obviously,
sure.
both with the Chiefs and with the Patriots before that, caught, I think, 10 touchdowns in his career. JJ Watt, for the Texans for a number of
Yep.
years was
Yep.
used as a red zone weapon.
How
So
about Hungry Pig Wright?
sure, Dontari Poe, of course.
Yeah.
Getting him, I mean, and he was lined up, at least on one of those trick plays, was lined up as a fullback. So
yeah.
you know, it's a fun little wrinkle, but it also just, aside from it being fun, like it works. And there's no reason why it shouldn't continue to work. Like maybe you don't want to put Leo out there for 25 snaps because he's also very important on defense and you don't want to expose him to potential injury. But like the guy is, there's no reason why that shouldn't be a legitimately effective weapon going forward. And especially, as you mentioned, with Pacheco news, sure, it probably won't be the last time we see that. And it really shouldn't be the last time we see it because it's effective. It's good.
Right. Maybe it'll be the last time until the playoffs. We'll see.
Yeah.
So now we get to H, and the Chiefs finally, after all these letters, get to handle some adversity. I was waiting for them to handle some adversity all game. And the Bengals score after the Wanya Morris score to retake the lead. And then Mahomes threw a ball that was, I mean, played beautifully by professional shit talker Cam Taylor-Britt on one of the best catches of the year. He snags it one-handed when covering guy who only runs straight, Xavier Worthy. And the Bengals had the ball and a 5-point lead, which is not really how you want these rivalry games to go. It's getting late. And then Turk Wharton and Mike Dana step up and make themselves a Burrow sandwich. And out pops the ball. And Shamari Connor, very alert, very astute, scoops the ball up live. It looked like maybe not a lot of people realized the ball was live at the time. Certainly when I was watching it, I had more of a reaction. You know, a lot of times on a scoop and score, it can be one of the most thrilling, electric plays if you realize that the play is live. But like, I don't know, they sacked him, they brought him down. I saw the ball out. Connor scoops it up, and he's kind of like running, but not like full speed. And I'm like, I think the Chiefs are trying to score a touchdown here. I was kind of like taken aback, and then you know they get the call, and then they go to the replay, and the replay clearly showed that the ball got punched out before Burrow hit the ground, and that's when I start freaking out. That's when I'm like, oh my god, the Chiefs actually scored a touchdown. It was unbelievable. It was a 38-yard fumble six, gives the Chiefs a 1-point lead. They tried to go for two, didn't really pull off anything fun there, and didn't get the play. So the Chiefs take the 1-point lead. That is how you handle the adversity of the moment, the big time. You know, your offense isn't doing it. They scored, but then the defense gives up the score right back. Everyone's kind of struggling. Everyone's kind of wondering, what the hell are we going to do to win this game? You're down 5. Bengals have the ball. If they go down and score, and the Chiefs are down 12, I don't think anybody in that stadium or at home thinks that the Chiefs have the juice to put 2 touchdowns up on the board and win this game. Not the way they've been playing. So Shamari Connor just takes it upon himself to go get a touchdown there, and really just love the big play mentality of this team at all times. When the games matter, give me no team in sports before you give me the Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, you said it like that. That's what I would point to. This was I mean, the Bengals had the ball and a 5-point lead in the fourth quarter. So, and they're on their own 34. So they have a lot of field to potentially burn clock. I mean, and if they go down and score a touchdown, and especially if they take 5 or 6 minutes off the clock and you're down to 8 minutes left in the game with a 2-score deficit against a Bengals team that could probably go score again, at least get a field goal. Sure. You know, with McPherson having the range that he has pretty easily. That's, I mean, if the Bengals score a touchdown on that drive, it's probably game over for you. And instead, the Chiefs have a 1-point lead in this game. We have to talk about, and we will continue to talk about the stakes of this on the Trash Talk scoreboard. And like,
oh my God,
we recorded somewhat early in the week, so we missed out on the Cam Taylor-Britt Trash Talk where he talked about Xavier Worthy running fast in a straight line. we missed out on Jamar Chase saying that the Bengals are the team to beat in the AFC, and they just need to play like it.
Jeez.
We just like
Sure.
this team. They shouldn't be running their mouths, but when they run their mouths and they get away with it, which they did on that interception by Cam Taylor-Britt against the guy that he was talking trash on, and then the Bengals are rolling in with a 5-point lead in the ball on their way to going 4-1 against the Chiefs with Joe Burrow against Patrick Mahomes. Oh my God.
Renaming it to Burrowhead.
This was as adverse as it gets. I mean, that's just
we've talked about our emotions with the AFC Championship game that we attended, the rematch of the the one we actually won, the one that mattered more than the other one.
Yes.
And that one had all the emotion of the Bengals Chiefs rivalry, but also in the playoffs, also to go to the Super Bowl, all the things that were, this one was, I mean, certainly I really, really, really wanted the game, of course, but like, because it's week 2 and because, there's still a lot of season ahead of us. And the other thing is we're used to playing the Bengals late in the year. They've had December and January regular season matches the last couple years. So like, certainly not a situation where we really haven't played the Bengals with nothing on the line for a while. And this was that game where, the season is all right in front of us, but the only thing that was on the line was really the rivalry, the shit talking. That's what was on the line. So that's what we continued to, worry about and think about. And you're right. When I saw the interception, I was like, shit, that was a really nice play. And then Cam Taylor-Britt comes up with it. I then was like, oh no, like that's way worse that guy's the one who caught it. Give me anybody else. And flip side, when Rashee Rice scored, it was on Cam Taylor-Britt. That gave me a little extra juice. That gave me like, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. So yes, it was, there was a lot. And so that brings us to C, create drama. And of course, it's not going to be Chiefs Bengals unless there's drama at the end of the game. One day we will get 41-10. I promise you, listeners, one day the Chiefs will blow out the Bengals. It's not going to be the Bengals blowing out the Chiefs because the Chiefs don't get blown out. But one day they're going to push past this barrier of not being, probably when Lou Anarumo finally gets a head coaching job, I would guess.
He retires or gets hired by somebody else.
Right. So the Bengals answer the fumble 6 with a field goal after they were down 1 point there, and they kick a field goal. They take a 2-point lead. And then the Chiefs were forced to punt as Trey Hendrickson just absolutely took Kingsley Suamataia to school. That'll happen. Trey Hendrickson is an all-pro defensive end. He's unbelievable. And Kingsley's a rookie. And that's going to happen. And also just matchup-wise, with how Hendrickson rushes and what Kingsley's, it just wasn't a good matchup. So the Chiefs, they see it, and they finally bench Kingsley late in the game, early fourth quarter, maybe mid fourth quarter for Wanya Morris. And it's not in time to save the drive because Kingsley was called for holds. He got worked on a sack. He was really, really the reason that the Chiefs offense was not moving. And the Chiefs punted back to the Bengals with 7 minutes left in the game, down 2. So once again, for the second time in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs found themselves without the ball and down against the Bengals, which is not where you want to be at all.
Oh, it's the worst.
And, if Joe Burrow was maybe clutch in the fourth quarter, which we've never seen out of him ever,
if he was good at football.
Even once, if he was good at football, he probably would have made the Chiefs pay. But instead, the Bengals get the ball back. They're driving. It's 3rd and 6. Now it's 3.5 minutes left. They've killed some time. Touchdown scorer, Chamari Connor, comes up with the Spags special, the corner blitz, the surprise blitz that they haven't done all game. Nobody saw it coming. You've seen L'Jarius Sneed pull this off. You've seen Trent McDuffie pull this off. And now it was Chamari Connor's turn. Corner blitz gets Joe Burrow right from his blind side, didn't see it coming, brings him down on 3rd and 6, forces the punt back to the Chiefs with 2:35 to go, with all 3 timeouts. And the drama is here because now, despite playing a bad game, I mean, offensively a poor game. I know the Chiefs had 25 or 23 points going into this drive, but like they had been struggling to move the ball. They had been making dumb mistakes. That was the other thing, is the turnovers and the penalties are not really something the Bengals were doing. That this is classic Chiefs. This is exactly what we've seen from them. But They start off 1st and 10 at their own 25, 2:35 to go. Pacheco immediately rips off 6 yards. Really nice start to the opening drive. And then Rashee Rice on a short right just took the ball, turned upfield, gets 10. So you hit the 2-minute warning, and the Chiefs are at the 41. You're thinking, all right, we need Butker because we're down 2 points right here. And Butker's range is, I mean, as
They almost sent him
unlimited
out
as
for a 68
they,
yard.
they
And then
almost
brought him back
they
in, which
almost
was
let him
cowardly.
attempt the NFL record, which would have been 66, and then that attempt would have been 68. But yes, they decided to punt earlier
According
in
to
the
game crew, he almost hit from 72 in warm-up.
Yeah, I mean, he's
So,
got
like,
Brandon
you're
Aubrey might be
practically
the
in
only
range on the
kicker.
41.
Right, exactly. Brandon Aubrey for the Cowboys might be the only kicker in the league I would maybe have more confidence in on a 60+ yarder than Butker, but maybe not even him because he hasn't done it when the game's on the line and big, he's a Cowboys kicker, so he's never going to know what that's like. But Butker now is about, by our estimation, you're at the 40, so 20 yards away would get you to the other 40, and that's a 57-yard. I mean, we're ready to go. So the Chiefs have 3 timeouts, 2 minutes to get 20 yards. I'm feeling pretty good. And then Pacheco goes up the middle for a yard and gets bent over backwards. This was the play. Yep. This is the play got hurt. He gets hit low. He gets hit high. He somehow walks off the field. I mean, limps, but I don't know how he wasn't screaming and needing the stretcher and all that stuff. But he limps over to the sideline, and about 30 seconds come off the clock. Minute 30 from the 42, and Mahomes goes incomplete. He scrambles, can't find anybody, basically throws it away. And so now it's a minute 27 and it's 3rd and 9. And just 30 seconds ago in the game, on 1st and 10 from the 41, I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling like, all right, you just need 20 yards. That's fine. You got all your timeouts, but you got to actually get the yards. And so on 3rd and 9, Mahomes goes, they run a screen to Samaje Perine. And the Bengals see it coming from a mile away. They almost intercept the screen, honestly. And Perine comes up with it. He kind of falls forward for 3 yards. The Chiefs take their second timeout, and there's now 53 seconds, and it's 4th and 6. We're on C Create Drama for a reason here, folks. This is as dramatic as it gets for a set week 2 game. And so the Bengals then come up. I'm sorry, I said the Chiefs called the timeout. This was the Chiefs lined up for a 4th and 6. The Bengals called the timeout to go talk about what they saw. And so all that planning and all that scheming by the Bengals, well, Rashee Rice gets open 21 yards down the field on the left side. Mahomes finds him. Pretty easy pitch and catch between those two. Really not a lot of drama in the catch. However, Wanya Morris, who had subbed into the game for Kingsley Suamataia, gets called for an illegal use to hands, 10 yards, and forced at the 45. So we redo it. So now it's 4th and 16 at the Chiefs 35, needing a Butker field goal and 48 seconds left. And the Chiefs line up once again. They've got 4 or 5 guys split out. Cincinnati, one more time, looks at what they did, call the timeout. They go back to their sidelines. They go, okay, guys, last time they had a 4th down, we fucked it up. We called the timeout. We talked about it. We couldn't get it done. So this time, we're definitely going to stop. This time, it doesn't matter what's going on. We've got the play. We've got Lou Anarumo on the sidelines. He's cooking something up. Chiefs come back out. It's 4th and 16. All we got to do is stop them from getting 16 yards on one play, and we get to name this place Burrowhead. However, Mahomes, they only rushed 3 on this play. They dropped 8. They did the Anarumo Classic, and for once, the Chiefs were ready. And Mahomes scrambles around. Rashee does the same type of route that he did the play before. He gets open to the same area of the field. Mahomes throws it to the same, about 20 yards down the field like he did then. It's actually a little deeper. It's 29 yards. And then the Bengals get to Rice before the ball does. And this was much talked about online, about the Chiefs getting calls, blah, blah, blah. You all know. You all saw the game. It was very clearly DPI. No question, no ifs, ands, or buts. This is the definition of defensive pass interference. That's what happens. So they get the penalty. The Chiefs have all 3 timeouts, but they just decide, we're just going to go ahead and fuck it. We're going to do it now. We're at the 36. That's close enough. We're running it a couple times. We're calling our timeout. Steal for two. Bring out Butker. 51-yard field goal. I mean, what can you say about Harrison Butker that we haven't already said? He has kicked 44 times in the 4th quarter of a 1-score game, and he's made 40 of them. And 2 of the 4 that he didn't get, the Chiefs won anyway. So, I mean, dude's nails. Dude's unbelievable and makes it. It's good. The Chiefs win the game 26-25. Burrowhead is no more. What'd you think about creating drama there at the end of that game?
It doesn't get much more dramatic than that. I was refreshing Twitter, driving on the highway. Again, don't recommend it. But I can get away with it. I know what I'm doing. Um, and I'm here I live to tell the tale. Kids don't try this at home. But I saw a tweet. I wish I could remember who it was from. That basically was like, "Oh my God!" And that's when I knew that something had happened. Something good had happened for the Chiefs. And then when I saw that it was a flag, man, I just lost it. You know, I want to shout out a couple of our listeners who got sort of picked up. I know Casey Puerto Rican tweeted about this and got retweeted by Scott Kexmar. Um, and I dropped a retweet on our guy Caveman Jesus. Uh, both of them made similar observations about these last two plays that I think are really good and instructive here. And it's funny how the discourse pivoted after this sort of began circulating. But the hands to the face call, it is a penalty. It's clearly a penalty. But, if you are of the opinion that penalties shouldn't be called, on the final plays of the game, then it shouldn't have been called, because at the end of the game, let them play. And, they're going to do what they're going to do, and the refs are going to turn a blind eye, and we're going to let the players play in these crunch time, clutch moments at the end of the game. We don't want it to be decided on a flag. Well, that's all fine and good. They did throw the flag on it. It wiped out what would have been the game-winning play for the Chiefs. That would have gotten the Chiefs into field goal range.
Same idea. Yep.
Butker kicks the field goal. They win the game if the flag doesn't get thrown there. Next play. It's clearly DPI. I have heard people have been throwing out this rulebook citation.
Right to the ball.
Partial rulebook citation that says the defender has a right to the ball. Okay, he does, but he doesn't get to go through the pass catcher to get to the ball. Okay,
he doesn't. The right to the ball means that the offensive player can't interfere with the defensive player.
Correct.
The right to the ball is defining OPI, not DPI.
Right. Correct. Exactly. So it's been hilarious to see that screenshot circulated. But again, it's crazy how the Chiefs just break everybody's brains. Like people want to.
Yes.
This is DPI 100 times out of 100. But when the Chiefs get this call with the game on the line, it can't be DPI because it's the Chiefs, and it's only DPI because they pay the refs, and the refs always favor the Chiefs in big-time moments. Point is, as Caveman Jesus and Casey Puerto Rican both pointed out on Twitter, if you're against making these calls in big-time crunch time moments, fine. The Chiefs win that game on 4th and 6 because they convert and they get a field goal range. And Butker hits the field goal. If if you think, oh yeah, but if it's an egregious penalty, you have to throw the flag. You can't let them play. Fine, that's what happened in this game. And the Chiefs won that way too. The only way that you can construct, a reality in this game is to construct a fantasy wherein only penalties that go against the Chiefs are going to get called. And that is the exact opposite of the refs favoring the Chiefs, which is what you all think happens in these games, right? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And it's crazy.
It doesn't hold up to scrutiny.
There's people that know ball, even, that can objectively reason, and they're able to make good, informed takes about the sport of football, that see these plays at the end of games and just completely lose their minds. Now, I will say, in general, on the whole, I was very proud of how the bulk of football talking heads, the discourse after this game was not nearly as disastrous as I thought it would be. It was largely confined to Bengals Twitter being salty about this game, and Eagles
or
Twitter,
other fan base Twitters,
Ravens Twitter.
Yes,
yeah, right.
Exactly. Name our victims.
All the usual suspects. Niners Twitter. All the usual suspects that already hate us and are predisposed to think that any call that we get in our favor is only because the refs favor the Chiefs. But listen, they had to pivot from, once it was pointed out that it was like, oh yeah, but the Chiefs would have won the game, the play before that, if you just let them play, because they wouldn't have called that penalty. Then they had to pivot to, oh, look, there's an obvious hold on this, and that would have been offsetting.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, you're in a position where you're arguing let him play. Holding is almost offensive holding is almost never going to get called in that situation. Defensive holding, DPI, sure, those are going to get called. I mean, frankly, the hands to the face, pretty
Very rare.
unusual for that to be called in that situation.
Yep.
A wide receiver offensive offsides. It gets called. We know it gets called because it got called against the Chiefs when they beat the Bills on Kadarius Toney and Travis Kelce's little lateral. Right, exactly. They would have beat the Bills.
Look, another thing that people
almost never gets called, but offensive holding, that's really going to get called in that situation.
Yes, absolutely. Another argument that I heard a lot, which really made no sense to me, was, or it's not that it makes no sense, it's that it has no basis in reality, is them saying, well, if the roles were reversed and the Chiefs were on defense, they never would have called that. So people, what they like to do is they like to construct the reality in their mind that they think would have been the case and made them correct. And they like to say the Chiefs are the only team that is getting that call. And it's like, you're not basing that on anything. You're not showing me other scenarios that have happened in the NFL and if another team didn't get that call, then you would just be saying that the defense got away with it. Like, you can't objectively analyze the situation and take out your hate for the Chiefs. They just can't do it. They want to pretend that they know ball, but they just don't know it. And so they're making up rules for last week for, the ball of the foot comes down before the toe. Like just make stuff up. And then in this one, they're like, oh, he's got a right to the ball. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's never how it works. It's a clear DPI. How it's
ever worked in this.
You're all crazy, but of course they're all crazy. I brought up I found a stat today that shows why they're all so crazy. And the reason they're all so crazy is because the teams that have the following 4 things happen to them have won 1 time out of 250 games since 1991. If the team does not have 330 total yards of offense, the Chiefs only had 286. If the team allows more than 21 points in the game, the Chiefs allowed 25. If the team has 3 or more turnovers, the Chiefs, of course, had 3. And if the team's third down percentage is less than 18%, the Chiefs, of course, converted 1 out of 8 or 12.5%. Teams are 1 and 249 since 1991 when those things occur. Of course, the 1 is the win this week against the Bengals, and that is why these teams and these fans and these people lose their goddamn minds, because they cannot stand that the Chiefs can pull out a win when nothing else is going and when the situation is so dire. The Chiefs just find it in themselves to somehow still figure out a way to win. That's why they're 3-time champs out in the last 5 years. That's why everybody hates them. It's not because they cheat. It's not because they pay the refs. It's not because of Taylor Swift, who, by the way, Taylor Swift, let's talk about this.
Okay.
The theory that the NFL wants the 26th largest market in the league, the Kansas City Chiefs, to win so that Taylor Swift fans are somehow going to continue to keep watching the games. As if Swifties are sitting there going, man, if the Chiefs blow this one, I don't know how much longer I can watch the NFL. I need the Chiefs to have a high winning percentage, because that's why I got into this thing, was to watch a successful football team and not just for the random shots of my favorite celebrity. Like the delusion that these people have, that the reason that the NFL is rigging the games for the Chiefs is so that non-football fans that are watching football are going to continue to watch football, makes no sense on surface. None at all. But yet they continue to champion it. I hate them. I hate everything that's going on narrative-wise, but Chiefs are 2-0. That's all I really care about.
Let's do some awards. We have got 3 types of awards for those who are hate listening. I know you're out there. We have 3 types of awards. We have our 5-star men. Who, through their play on the field, are screaming out, I'm a 5-star man. We have our trash men.
I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage.
Who are eating garbage all over the field. And then we have our wild cards.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
Who are, of course, capable of anything. I will give you the first 5-star man award for this game.
Yeah, sure. I think it's got to go to the guy that not only came up with the big time surprise Steve Spagnuolo special sack, but also the heads up, Fumble 6 play. Of course, Chamari Connor in this one, wearing Kareem Hunt's old number, 27. So if the Chiefs sign him, he'll have to either work out a deal with Chamari or more likely pick another number. But he was great in this one. He was great in coverage. He was a really good example of what we've talked about year after year, which is just this team's hilarious ability to find dudes in the secondary. And another good example of that. Really proud of that kid. And he was well deserving of a 5-star man and probably won't be his last.
Yeah, Nick Jacobs made the observation on his podcast after the game that like Chamari Connor is basically following the exact L'Jarius Sneed blueprint. You mentioned it earlier this game, or earlier in the pod. The blitz, the special specs, corner blitz. I mean, that was a L'Jarius Sneed special, especially early on in his career before he became the shadow coverage lockdown corner. I'm not saying Chamari Connor is going to become L'Jarius Sneed. All I'm saying is that Spags and Dave Merritt and those guys have done it before. So, for my 5-star man, I will take another cornerback, Trent McDuffie. Now, this cornerback, Trent McDuffie, did not follow the patented Dave Merritt, Brett Veach, Steve Spagnuolo special. He was a first-round blue chip prospect, and he's played like it. And he's been great since the moment he set foot in the NFL, and he has just continued to be great. He was great in this game. 17 reps against Jamar Chase, who, as we mentioned, was talking a huge game leading up to the game, saying that they were the team to beat in the AFC. Bro, that hasn't been true in like at least 3 years. Just get over yourself. 17 reps against Jamar Chase, 1 catch for 4 yards. That 1 catch for 4 yards resulted in a 15-yard penalty against the Bengals because Jamar Chase was so mad that Trent McDuffie made a normal tackle that was completely normal, and there was nothing weird or malicious about it.
Nope.
He went and lost his mind on the sidelines, got a 15-yard penalty. Essentially, Trent McDuffie held Jamar Chase to negative 11 yards. Okay? So,
good.
He basically put up better than a goose egg on Jamar Chase. And he said after the game that this is what they were trying to do, that they knew that they could get into Jamar Chase's head and they just needed to be physical with him, and that they did bracket him for a lot of this game and double cover him for a lot of this game. They knew he would get frustrated. They knew he would do something stupid. They called it. They prepared for this. They followed the script to a T. Aside from that, he was only targeted 4 times in this game. He had 38 snaps overall, 17 against Chase, 38 overall. He only allowed that 1 catch to Chase on 4 targets in the game. 1 catch for 4 yards. That's Clamps McDuffie. That's a 5-star man.
Yeah, he's the best for sure. No arguments for me there.
Let me hit you with my trash man here, and I don't want to bag on the guy, but it's got to be Kingsley Suamataia. Not very often that you see the Chiefs bench a player for performance reasons in the middle of a game. Carson Steele got to ride the bench for part of this game to protect his injury because he put the ball on the ground. But Kingsley had to go ride the bench for the last part of the fourth quarter in this game because he just kept getting beat by Trey Hendrickson. And I like this kid a lot, and I think he's going to be really good. His post-game comments after the game, he came out and said, they gave me the challenge to be the left tackle of this team. I need to take it upon myself even harder. None of that should have happened in the first place, talking about the penalties and getting beat. Bad technique in those reps. Definitely stuff I can work on. I mean, so great to hear a guy come out and take that kind of accountability after the game.
Sure.
The Chiefs' first 2 opponents could take a lot of notes from how Kingsley Suamataia handled his post-game presser, as opposed to the way that the Bengals and Ravens did. But, he was not good in this game. It's tough.
No.
This is obviously, coming from BYU. He has not seen guys like Trey Hendrickson at BYU. You just don't see that type of pass rusher in college.
You rarely see in the NFL.
Right, exactly. And especially if you're playing at a program like BYU, you're just not going to see that kind of pressure coming off the edge. And so it'll be a learning experience for him. It's a baptism of fire. And it's great that the Chiefs were able to win this game, that they were able to go to Wanya Morris. They were able to piece enough together on that final drive to get into field goal range and win this game. But unfortunately, Kingsley is my trash man for this one.
Yeah. Of course, the great Mitch Schwartz, one of the best tackles in team history. He had a great breakdown of Kingsley's game. on Twitter, so I would go check that out. And it included, people asking him like, "Hey, are you like down on him after this, or is the?" And he was like, "Not at all. This was technique. This wasn't skill. I think he's got all the tools necessary to be a successful and above average left tackle in the NFL. He just needs to learn, and this is the best way to learn." I mean, he was very positive about the whole situation, and if Mitch is feeling good about it, then that's all I need to hear. My trash man. Typically, I save this move for a playoff game, but this had a playoff atmosphere. This had playoff, feelings. Anytime the Bengals and Chiefs get together, so I'm picking a Bengal for my trash man. And of course, it's the guy that you just said with the penalty was held to minus 11 yards, and that is of course Jamar Chase. He talked a bunch of shit, couldn't back any of it up, and is just so punchable and so annoying, and I just really don't like the guy. And credit to him for getting me to that state, because that's not, I mean, that's kind of hard to do these days, but he plays the heel well. I'll give him credit for that. But he was shitty in this game, and he deserves every bit of trash man that we can throw at him. So Jamar Chase, he went nuts the first time he played the Chiefs ever, and ever since then he's been really quiet. Spags had
Spags said
enough.
never again.
Yes, had enough of that bullshit, and it showed. And really, in the same way that Anarumo likes to take away Kelsey's really not gone off on the Bengals in a really long time. And that's exactly what Spags does to Jamar Chase. He just shuts him down. And it helps when you have badass corners like Trent McDuffie and in the past L'Jarius Sneed and stuff. But of course, it takes a village out there, and they were all doing it, all covering him. Jamar Chase, you suck, buddy.
Terrible. Give me your wild card.
I'd say anytime your backup left tackle is said multiple times, not only for catching a touchdown, but also for stepping up for a benched starter and then getting a late hands to the face on. I mean, Wanya Morris had a day, man. He had a lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff. He was about, if we had wild card like trading cards, he might be the face on that one.
Which is crazy because he's an offensive lineman. Like
right. A backup left tackle. But that's the kind of day he had. So Wanya Morris definitely my wild card.
I love that. I'm gonna go with Carson Steele. He of course had that bad fumble. I mean, he just got the ball punched out, and it always blows my mind when you have a guy like Pacheco or a guy like Carson Steele, guys that are like jacked and so physical and so powerful that then lose the ball. And it's the NFL. Anything can happen. It just
oval ball. It's hard
exactly.
to hold on to.
But he also he converted both of those fourth downs. We mentioned it. The Chiefs went for it on fourth down twice. Got it both times. Carson Steele, the ball carrier on both of those plays. Had some hard runs there in the fourth quarter. Obviously, after Pacheco went down to get the Chiefs in position to win this game, and he's going to see a larger role going forward. We don't know exactly what that's going to be, but he had a pretty up and down performance in this game. Unfortunately, the ups coincided with the end of the game. You get those downs out of the way early, and came back with some ups there at the end. So that's going to put a bow on Chiefs over Bengals. The Chiefs improved 2-0. They are 2-3 against the Bengals and Joe Burrow in this era, and the Bengals have now not beaten the Chiefs in 622 days. So suck on that. Let's really quickly turn to week 3, Chiefs at Falcons on Sunday Night Football. And somehow the Atlanta Falcons are playing in primetime right now as we're recording the segment. So they just went for it on 4th and 1 at their own 39, down 3 points to the Eagles with about 5 minutes left in this game. They didn't get it. Bijan could not convert. Bijan Robinson could not convert on that play. There's not a whole lot to say about this game. Number one, we don't have, DVOA and a lot of those metrics because the Falcons are still playing this game, but the Eagles are now in control of this game. They have an 81% chance to win it. This game will be over by the time we finish riffing on this probably, but Kirk Cousins just has not looked good at all through the first couple of weeks. He's 15 for 23 for 171 and a touch in this game so far tonight. He was not good in week 1 against the Steelers. Just looked really tentative out there, not very mobile. Just looked like a guy that's 36 years old and coming off an Achilles injury.
Right.
And
that's what I was going to say.
I just, the Steelers have got a great defense. Mike Tomlin going against him in week 1. That's tough. The Eagles, they've got a pretty decent defense, and he's going, of course, against, the venerable Vic Fangio. So a good defensive coordinator there. The Chiefs certainly have, at least in terms of coaching, the ability to punish, and I mean severely punish, a limited Kirk Cousins playing in primetime. Oof.
Yeah, it's they're weird. I don't
They
really
are weird.
know yet
They're
what
very
to
weird.
think about the Atlanta Falcons, and it's going to be a road game. Um, they've got players. They've certainly got players on both sides of the ball, and I just I feel like this is a game where I don't want to say trap game, even if they lose tonight to the Eagles and fall to 0-2. I think week 3 is too early to call traps. But they are like kind of, it's a NFC South team. You play them once every 4 years, usually. And so there's not a lot of familiarity there. And there's not a lot of hate. And sometimes I feel like the Chiefs kind of need the game to matter a little
Sure,
bit.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know how the Chiefs, after winning 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, are going to get up for a road game against Atlanta. Maybe they are; they're professionals, but like I don't know if they got that dog in them because of for this game. And so that it kind of feels like, and this is funny because this was a Matt Ryan led team, but it kind of feels like when we went on the road to Indy couple years, and it just felt like the teams were not on the same level of competition with each other. And because of that, the Chiefs just kind of allowed themselves to get lulled to sleep. And who knows? Maybe this is the 41-10 game that I'm a little worried it's going to be close. But like, I don't know. This just feels like a game that the Chiefs are going to mess around, and I'm not super looking forward to it.
I thought for sure that when you said it kind of feels like, and then name drop Matt Ryan, that you were going to talk about the last time the Chiefs played the Falcons, which
Sure.
was in 2020 against Matt Ryan.
Sure.
It was a 4-10 Falcons team coming to Arrowhead to face the 13-1 Chiefs in late December when the Falcons had been eliminated. Chiefs are cruising. I think they clinched the 1 seed in that game. And it was 17-14 Chiefs. And
it was horrible. One of the
was,
worst offensive play games they've ever played.
Atlanta was up 14-10 with 4 minutes left in the game. Mm-hmm. And it was only a DeMarcus Robinson game-winning 25-yard touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes with 1:55 left in that game that gave the Chiefs the win. So that is absolutely a concern in this game, is that the Chiefs tend to play down to their opponents. They tend not to get up for these games that don't mean as much. On the other hand, they had every incentive to blow out the Bengals, and we saw what happened there. On the other hand, again, no Lou Anarumo in this game.
Thank God.
No Baltimore Ravens defense in this game. And, Chiefs fans may remember the Atlanta Falcons home stadium as the site of one Chiefs' many iconic preseason plays. This was where Patrick Mahomes threw that incredible 69 air yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill in the preseason in 2018 that got everybody fired up. Lackluster preseason. It's the last preseason game.
It was gorgeous.
And Tyreek twerking in the end zone. We speak of it fondly and often for a play that didn't actually count in real NFL stats.
How about a play that did actually count in real NFL stats? The pick 2. Eric Berry pick 2.
Yeah,
one of the most. I mean, that's an iconic play.
And that was two. That was 2 times ago in 2016.
Chiefs won that game 29-28. They wouldn't have won it. He had a pick 6 and a pick 2, right? Didn't he have a pick 6, or was it just a pick?
Yes,
I
think that's right. Yeah, and
I think he had a touchdown.
Atlanta, obviously, his hometown. The Chiefs have played weird games against the Falcons. At least the last 2 games they played.
Yeah.
Now the two games prior to that in 2012 and 2008, they got blown out 40-24 and 38-14. The game before that in 2004, they beat the Falcons 56-10 and had 2 running backs score 4 touchdowns each. Yep. So I don't know. This is
Derek Blaylock and Priest Holmes. That was quite the game.
That's right. It was. And I don't know. It's hard to get a handle on an NFC team that you only see every 4 years. It's even harder when you're playing them in week 3 and they have a new quarterback and he's coming off of an injury. And, they drafted a quarterback 8 overall after they gave Kirk
pretty
Cousins all that
weird.
money. They have Michael
Pretty
Penix. I doubt that they'll be panicking and going to Penix quite that early, but we've got Kirk Cousins in prime time. I mean, the only thing that I'm really worried about in this game, I guess, is that the Falcons do have a lot of weapons in theory,
Yeah.
on paper.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Bijan
We haven't
Robinson,
seen him
we
yet,
all
but
know what he did in college at UT. He was
Mhm.
incredible. He was one of the best running back prospects coming out that we've seen in the last 10 years. Drake London was also an 8th overall pick. Kyle Pitts was the 4th overall pick. I mean, they've got skill players that
out
should
the
be,
ass.
based on their draft stock, overwhelmingly potent. And yet, for whatever reason, they've never been able to really unlock the potential of those players. And I say that as somebody that has some Bijan stock in fantasy. I have some Drake London stock in fantasy.
Same.
I'm smart enough to stay away from Kyle Pitts. But I mean, he was a guy that in a pipe dream magical fantasy world, I was like, man, this guy would look so good on the Chiefs.
And how about the talent they've added on defense? They picked up Justin Simmons late. They traded for Matthew Judon. They signed Jesse Bates. I mean, they've got Grady Jarrett, and I mean, they've got guys all over the place. Old friend Mike Hughes, so hopefully we can pick on him a little bit. We know how that'll go. But yeah, they've got guys. They're an NFL team. This is not the Carolina Panthers that the Chiefs are going to play next Sunday. And I mean, I expect it to be a game.
We both picked blowouts last week. So in the interest of picking this game and going against the script that didn't work out quite like we expected last game, I'm going to pick the Chiefs in a close game. I'm going to say they win this one 21-17 and improve to 3-0 with a squeaker over the Falcons.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 17-10 Chiefs. I think it's going to be dumb, and they're not going to score very often, but they're going to find a way because they always find a way, and the show goes on, and the Chiefs are going to move to 3-0.
It will always be sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. We'll see you guys next time.